doing this.
Thank you. And Hanadi is here. She's doing an excellent job. Thank you so much for having me, Hanadi. I'll see you later today.
Okay. Bye, Naz.
Bye.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good.
You get exhausted day yesterday. Long day. Long hours together. No problem.
Okay, so here we are today. I see, I don't see Peter here. And I don't see, is Edward here? Is everybody here? So the only one I see here, I think, is Fuad. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, it's pronunciated Fuad Fakiri. He's one from the leading inventor from Morocco.
Okay, Hanadi, I'm going to go a little out of order since he's here. So we'll do him first.
Yes, okay, no problem. No problem. Till the others will be joining.
When the others arrive, they'll fill in here. Okay, so we're ready to start this session. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. Fuad Fakari. Are you here? I see your name here. I don't see your face. All right. Let's see if any of the other people are here. See if we can find everybody here. Hanadi, are you seeing all these other people? Oh, wait a minute.
I'm approaching them. No problem, Professor Mike. You can summarize your opinion about yesterday. Did you contact your vice president?
Okay, so yesterday we did a lot with artificial intelligence and the future. Our provost and academic vice president talked about a little bit of the future of education and some of the challenges that lie ahead. I see Peter just signed on. And that went, the one I was most impressed with was Hoda from NYU in, if it was Abu Dhabi or Dubai, I think. She gave a very extensive talk on how artificial intelligence is used. So all this I found very informative for me. I don't know as much about this subject as some of these experts here, so I'm learning quite a lot myself, which I think is wonderful at these conferences.
Yes, she sent you great thanks, and she want to take your contact number, and already I share. And she is joining us. She is in Switzerland yesterday and maybe also today, and she is joining today from early morning.
Oh, wonderful!
Joining us in a few sessions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was very impressed. She had an excellent slideshow prepared, the PowerPoints, very thorough and exhaustive. She took the full half hour, and frankly, she could have taken a little bit more. She had that much to say, so I was very impressed by that.
If you can share with me as well, now I'm curious.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
It was very good.
Thank you.
So let's see here. I think I see Peter is here, and Fakari is still not here.
Fakari is not here. He told me after 15 minutes he will join. If Professor Peter and Georgios, it's ready, they can start, Professor Mike, till the other is joining.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Either Peter or who is the other one who is here?
I think we are very happy to go first. Hi.
Okay, Giorgio, there you go.
Georgios.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Mike, Giorgio is giving the presentation on our behalf, so we'll talk about answer questions together. But Giorgio is giving the PowerPoint. and discussion.
Great thanks, Professor Peter, for joining us in the fifth year. Great thanks.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
you
very
may fire when ready.
to kick off. Should I share my screen?
Surely.
Thank you very much. Okay, I hope you can see my slides.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, hello everyone. And I'm Dr. Giorgio Caselli. I'm Assistant Director and Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Business Research. We are part of the George Business School at the University of Cambridge. First of all, I'd like to thank, also on behalf of Professor Peter Tyler, Dr. Hanadi Al-Mubaraki for inviting us to deliver this talk. I think this is the fourth time that we are doing it, and we are delighted to join this conference in 2024 again. So our presentation today is based on ongoing research that Professor Tyler and I have been doing together with Dr. Koch at the CBR, examining how the partnership between the public and the private sectors in Cambridge has shaped the success of the Cambridge phenomenon. Now, some of you may already be familiar with the concept of Cambridge phenomenon. This refers to the explosion of knowledge-intensive, or KI, as you'll hear me many times say today, businesses in and around the city of Cambridge since the 1960s. So this concept started to be used following a 1980 Financial Times article by journalist Peter Levy, where she noted that a phenomenon of considerable significance to British industry is taking place in Cambridge. In the past decade, she said, 41 computer-based high-technology firms have set up shop there. None has failed, and most are flourishing. Now, this is very much the starting point of our talk and our research. So the Cambridge phenomenon, which we've now defined, has recently celebrated its 60th anniversary. So a fairly long history, not too long, but still a fairly long history. And it has now grown to be one of the leading high-tech clusters in the world. It is home to over 30 major science campuses, including Cambridge Biomedical Campus, which is regarded as Europe's largest healthcare and medical research center. And against this background, our research is seeking to establish the main factors that make for a successful innovation ecosystem like the Cambridge High Tech Cluster. And in particular, in our research presentation today, we're going to examine a central aspect of the Cambridge Innovation System, and that is the extent to which the public and the private sectors have been able to work together to enhance the effectiveness of the cluster. And what we're going to do, we're going to show an example of this by building on the results of two economic impact assessments of the Baybram Research Campus. And we're going to talk a bit about Baybram Research Campus and the role it plays in a second. And these studies were carried out by us in collaboration with other colleagues in 2019 and more recently in 2023. Now, behind the Cambridge Innovation ecosystem are four key systems containing the people, businesses, and institutions that have come together in Cambridge to translate knowledge and ideas into outcomes that have benefited societal well-being while at the same time generating commercial success. our focus today will be very much on the overlapping area right at the center of this diagram, but we will pay particular attention to the business system. So the key questions to start off is, how has the Cambridge business base evolved over time? Well, if we look at early assessments of the size of the cluster, they indicated that there were about 300 high-tech businesses in Cambridge in 1985, and they were made up mostly by quite small R&D-driven companies, often academic spin-outs. There was a limited number of large companies that tended to dominate employment during the 1980s, and things changed over the last 20 years, which saw a steady rise in number of small and medium-sized businesses. So there was a shift from R&D to R&D plus manufacturing as well. Now, according to our most recent data, there are about 5,000 knowledge-intensive companies. So these are companies that we would define as homegrown or headquartered in the area. And on top of that, there are also more than 38,000 staff employed at non-corporate KI research organizations. And here we have many examples. Here are just a few. So Addenbrooke's Hospital in the area of medical education and research, Babraham Institute, which is focusing on immunology and healthy aging, the MRC Lab of Molecular Biology, and the Wellcome Sanger Institute as well. So we have homegrown companies, non-corporate KI research organizations. The third element making up the business cluster are international tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple, which obviously are not headquartered in the area, but they have offices in Cambridge. But the figure that I think is perhaps most revealing of the vibrancy of the cluster is the 24 unicorns, or companies reaching a $1 billion valuation, that have been created in Cambridge since the start of the Cambridge phenomenon. A recent example is Wave, a startup dedicated to accelerating autonomous mobility through machine learning-based approaches. As shown in this slide, the number of factors, both private and public, making up the Cambridge innovation ecosystem, and also the complexity of the interactions between them, have increased quite substantially as the ecosystem developed. And hopefully this slide gives you an idea of the expansion of the key actors. Now, that's where usually Pete and I get a bit more excited. So if we then look at the real measure of the cluster in terms of employment, we can see that the process has not been linear. So here what we do is we look at KI corporate employment in Cambridge since the first data were available, so 1984, all the way up to 2022, which is the most recent data that is available. So what we can see in a nutshell is significant growth in employment from the 1980s to the early 2000s, followed by a slowdown during the mid-2000s, and that was caused primarily by reductions in high-tech manufacturing. We can also see that growth resumed in the late 2000s, and there was strong growth during the last decade, and this happened despite the COVID pandemic. And if we look a bit deeper, we can see that the growth that we have seen in the last decade was driven by fast expanding life sciences and ICT sectors. And in our research as well, we also map the location of Cambridge-based companies to understand the geography of the Cambridge cluster. And what we find, again, very briefly, because we don't have much time, is that companies operating in the two key sectors I mentioned that are at the heart of the Cambridge phenomenon, so life science and ICT, they tend to collocate with other similar companies. And the benefits of this agglomeration include access to a rich pool of talent, availability of specialized investors, and also transfer of tacit knowledge. For instance, if we look at the map, we can see that life science and ICT companies are concentrated near the city center, so right the middle of this map, and also around some of the main science campuses in the area. And indeed, talking about science campuses, Cambridge is home to an important group of science campuses, and we argue in our research, and we evidence that with data, that science campuses play a very important part of the Cambridge innovative milieu. And you can see some examples in this slide. Now, the role they play, so the role of science campuses, goes well beyond the provision of floor space and associated facilities. So while offering an attractive, quite nice working environment, as well as a range of support services, the parks or the campuses also tend to facilitate collaborations and other interactions among the companies and other research institutions that are located on them. Among the other benefits are also access to specialized knowledge, access to specialized equipment, ability to recruit skilled employees, and also importantly, to attract funding, as well as benefiting in terms of image or imputed reputation from being on a science campus. A noticeable feature of some of these campuses, and this is going to the core of our presentation today, is that the investment required to develop them has been secured from extensive public and increasingly charitable funding over a number of years. And here we're just reporting some examples. So Baybram, with funding from the UKRI BBSRC, the Cambridge Biomedical Campus with the Medical Research Council providing a substantial amount of funding, the Wellcome Genome Campus through the Wellcome Trust, but we could provide far more examples. Now, in our work, what we do, we also examine the largest campuses, and this table is looking at the largest 37 campuses in the Cambridge City region from amongst the 120 or so business locations that we have identified in the region. And we can see that these 37 campuses are quite significant in aggregate. So they are home to over 2,300 companies. They employ 56,000 people. And it's important to highlight that many of these campuses are home to knowledge-intensive companies, as I will clarify in a second. Importantly, this slide also shows that these campuses vary in composition as well as specialization. So we have grouped them based on the type of companies that are located on them. So the 6 campuses you see at the top of the table have a strong focus on life sciences. The second group of 9 campuses have a high proportion of their companies in knowledge-intensive sectors, but with much less of a focus on life sciences. So here, typically, they focus on the information and communication technology sector. Then the remaining 23 parks are summarized into 2 groups, 5 of them with a majority of, again, knowledge-intensive businesses on them, but far less significant in terms of employment compared with the previous ones. And then a residual, if you like, group of 17 parks that have a majority of knowledge-intensive businesses. So these ones are quite different from the other ones. What we also find is that companies located on these campuses have grown considerably over time in terms of employment. And a case in point are companies located on life science focused campuses, so the 6 campuses at the top of the table, which have achieved fast growth in employment over the last 3 years, and they have outperformed companies located on any of the other campus types, especially if you compare the employment growth of the campuses at the top of the table against the employment growth of the 17 parks at the bottom of the table. You can see that employment growth has been far higher among the top group compared with the bottom group. However, there is one statistic which I think best captures the significance of these campuses, and that is what you can see in this slide. So this is the aggregate R&D expenditure of the companies located on these campuses. So we can see that over £7 billion of R&D was carried out by companies on these campuses over the last 3 years, with £2.6 billion of that coming in the latest year. So hopefully, in the very few minutes we have available, you are getting an idea of the significance of the science campuses, and within that, the significance in particular of Bagram Research Campus. So Bagram Research Campus is based in a dynamic environment within a 430-acre freehold estate of the UKRI BBSRC. It is located 6 miles south of Cambridge. It is home to a highly connected community of over 60 commercial life science organizations, and it is quite unique in its co-location of these 60 commercial organizations with the Bagram Institute, which I mentioned before. It is a top research institution in the area of healthy aging. The campus is managed and developed by the Bagram Research Campus Limited, and its role is very much about supporting UK bioscience through advancing discovery research and also providing facilities and capabilities. A typical example being the accelerator on the campus, or Accelerate at Bagram, for early stage and growing commercial life science organizations. So what it does, it brings together world-class research and business with a shared scientific focus that accelerates innovation while strengthening links between academia and the commercial world. So the campus caters to a segment of life science companies that is typically underserved in the UK, namely those in the early stage of incubation and also with an ambition to scale to an IPO. The uncertain viability and therefore the higher risk profile of these companies usually makes them far less attractive as tenants to more commercially orientated science campuses. And in fact, standard commercial science park offering of shell and core buildings on usually long leases are quite unfavorable and quite often unappealing to the companies and investors themselves. And in our research, we find that the critical role, the role played by public investment is very critical in overcoming this clear market failure by offering a stable and supported community within which these companies can grow and flourish. And in turn, as we see in a second, this also leads to faster growth in the life science sector in Cambridge overall. Now, what we did is we conducted 2 economic impact studies of the Bagram Research Campus, as I mentioned at the beginning. So one in 2019 and most recently in 2023. A major element of both studies was a very successful survey of the bioscience companies located on the campus. So if we focus, for example, on the 2023 study, so the part to the right of this slide, we selected 44 bioscience companies. These tend to be fairly young companies, so on average below 9 years of age. They employ over 1,500 people worldwide. They have raised a significant amount of funding to date, 1.6 billion. And 35 out of these 44 companies returned our survey, giving a very high response rate of 80%, and also higher than the already high response rate we had in 2019. Now, we're just going to give you a very brief and a very quick selection of the key findings, focusing on additionality. So among the many things we looked at in our business survey, we asked companies directly to estimate the impact that being located on the Bagram Research Campus has had on various outcomes. And the findings are summarized in this slide. So, for example, being located on the campus has accelerated scientific discovery and fundraising by 6 months. It has also increased the amount of fundraising to date by 20%, and it has increased the number of people employed by 50%. And importantly, if we look at these figures, which are the figures from the 2023 study against those from 2019, we can see that there is evidence of increasing impact of the campus over time. And the figure you see at the bottom, we also quantified the contribution to the growth in value of campus companies provided by Bagram. And this is estimated in £178 million per year, which is again a very significant figure. So overall, these figures highlight the additionality impact of the Bagram Research Campus to business growth. So when we talk about additionality, we refer to the real increase in social value that would not have occurred in the absence of the intervention being evaluated. So in this case, the public investment in the Bagram Research Campus. And our evidence suggests that the public investment has been able to increase not just the scale, but also the speed of delivery of life science research and its translation into economic benefits. It also confirms that considerable value can be realized by well-targeted public sector investment in life science ecosystem support. And to conclude with a clear figure, so besides the wider medical and health benefits, the research indicates that every £1 of direct public sector support, mainly from Research Council grants, is associated with a £4 or £3 in our previous study of economic gain. So that is a very significant ratio. So to conclude, what we find is that a public or state-supported research and innovation campus like the Bagram Research Campus fills what is otherwise a largely unoccupied niche in the UK innovation system. The findings demonstrate the benefits of public and private partnership in bioscience research. And our ongoing research in Cambridge is exploring how successful public and private collaboration has enhanced business growth and clustering. And we are looking at several main pathways, and these include through the provision of finance, labor market contributions from both universities and other organizations, and also property market impacts. And we will be delighted to discuss any of these issues with you in more detail. So I shall stop here, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Georgia. I found that was very, very interesting. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If I could, I'm wondering why you're so successful. I mean, normally with startups like this, you have a fairly significant failure rate, and you're so successful. I think, I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't know if the companies collaborate with each other and that helps. Did the public investment help? I mean, why is it that you're so successful, which is great?
Yeah, Pete, do you want to go first, and then I can follow up?
Well, I think, Mike, I think first of all, the sheer strength of the knowledge base is profound. So there's a lot of very good ideas that are emerging from the universities. The real issue, which Giorgio highlighted, I think, well, is that the main thing which has gone on leaps and bounds in the last 40-odd years has been the ability to think how best to commercialize that research and to overcome the impediments that are often in the literature and in academic research, those impediments that actually prevent companies from continuing to grow and often continuing to be in existence. So, I mean, I think what we're finding is that if you harmonize successfully both the market with the public sector intervention, particularly where you've got what I suppose is often called med-ed, where you've got very high levels of medical institutions working alongside, deeply interrelated with the commercial spin-outs, you do tend to find that you get, I think, quite high levels of success. I think we also, and Giorgio intimated this at the end, that the other thing which has grown apace and which has really supported what people call the phenomenon has been the depth of the labour market now. I mean, so the labour market has become what people call a thick labour market, in the sense that you've got the ability for individuals and partners to move between companies, but also then to facilitate ongoing needs. The Cambridge system is a very interesting example, though, particularly where I think three main technologies have come together with good opportunity, given what's been happening in the marketplace. And that is, as Giorgio mentioned, life sciences and ICT. But the other great driver is nanotechnology. So we're very much of the view, and I think our research tends to help to try and show it, that with the right accelerator support and the right attention to the crucial pinch points in the normal innovation system, I think you can get higher levels of achievement, perhaps. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there are many companies that don't make it. We're very lucky in having a depth of experience at the moment that seems to be going very well indeed.
And most of these companies, do they plan an exit in that they plan to go public, or do they get purchased by a larger corporation? Or
well, I suppose one of the it's probably a British issue as well as a Cambridge issue, is that as you've suggested, I think once companies get to a certain scale, they often essentially are bought out. And of course, they often drive to where the market is suitably scaled up and sizable, which is America, of course. So one of the big issues in thinking about commercialization of British, particularly life science innovation, is very much to try and enable it to grow within the UK. But a lot of it does get bought, and a lot of course, the businesses will eventually sell out or move on. So the interesting thing about the Cambridge model is that it was very much 50 years ago about very much academic spin-outs. Now it has moved to another level where not only are some of the companies moving up to a higher scale, But you're also beginning to see big multinational companies like AstraZeneca move into the area. Now, this internationalization process dramatically changes the contours and what's going on.
Very interesting. I could think of a whole lot more questions and a lot more to talk about. Unfortunately, we're about out of time, and I have to save time for the other one. So both Peter and Georgia, I want to thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. And as has happened with all the ones I'm listening to here, I tend to learn a lot from them. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, next one is Maman Habib here.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, here you go. All
Yeah.
right, terrific. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, you go way back.
So should I start now?
Surely,
Yep. I'd like to share my screen.
you can do that.
Is it visible?
Perfect.
Okay, so let us start. Thank you so much for inviting me as a keynote speaker in this conference. Particularly, I'd like to give the special thanks to the organizer, Hanadi and her team. Today my speech will be on technology-enabled and entrepreneurship for business excellence. So I'd like to clarify the few things, how we can involve the technological advancement in entrepreneurship thinking for the business excellence. So welcome to all participants to our international virtual conference on technovation, artificial intelligence, techno-entrepreneurship for economic diversification. This is Professor Dr. Mamun Habib. I'm the professor of the School of Business Entrepreneurship, Independent University, Bangladesh, visiting scientist of University of Texas, Arlington, USA. I like to start by the entrepreneurship definition. We are familiar with this one. I don't want to talk about this one, but we like to start by the example. When you use the term the entrepreneurship, the first name will come up in our mind. This is Bill Gates. So due to the Microsoft. When we are thinking about any kind of entrepreneurship thinking, then our next name will come on the Steve Jobs, like the Mark Zuckerberg and something like that. So, but if you look very carefully, the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs or the Mark Zuckerberg, their business profile is not very easy to come, easy to reach. So today our discussion is that any kind of new entrepreneur, how they become the giant in the market, like the Microsoft, Apple, or the Facebook. So we are familiar with the 4 types of the entrepreneurship, like small business, scalable startups, large company, and the social entrepreneurship. The last one, the social entrepreneurship, the new concept also. And there is also the very popular one, the social business, which is generated by Nobel laureate Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus. So this is the very, we are familiar with this one. Now, when you come to this entrepreneurship concept will come from the business excellence. We like to go to that level, how we can ensure the business excellence. So particularly those in the entrepreneur, they should have some characteristics like creativity, innovation, professionalism, risk-taking, passionate, the planning, knowledge, social skills, and definitely the open-mindedness. So this is the open-mindedness towards the learning for the mistakes, learning for the errors, open-mindedness to the people, those who involve with them, and definitely even the failure level, they have to think this is the one kind of learning process. So this is some of the characteristics you should think about the successful entrepreneurship. Now come to the business excellence. when you're talking about the business excellence, then we should think about the few parameters like total quality management, TQM, supply chain management, technological advancement, globalization, environment friendly attitude, sustainability, and emotional intelligence. So we do not want to go to the all, but we like to mention the different key points that how we can think about the business excellence. I like to start by the total quality management. If you ask the total quality management concept, then we have to think the two basic objectives. What is the stakeholder satisfaction? So our ultimate target not only satisfy our customers, at the same time, we have to ensure the satisfaction towards our all stakeholders. Means that employers, employees, suppliers, contractors, subcontractors, so on. And then we should think about the continuous improvement, Kaizen. And this continuous improvement, Kaizen, should be applicable to the input, process, output, so overall system. How we can think about the improvement in the people, how we can think the improvement in the suppliers. But one of the key issue, what I said earlier, continuous improvement, gradual improvement. So that is we call the Japanese term, the Kaizen. So when you talk about the total quality management, we have to ensure these two basic things, like stakeholder satisfaction and continuous improvement. And when you go for the total quality management, there's a misconception. Our traditional concept and TQM concept are the same. So when the business owner or they're thinking the entrepreneurship, the successful entrepreneurship, or their target, how they can ensure that the business will be the more successful, so they should think about the TQM view. So according to the TQM view, we have to think the different way. Suppose first of all, you have to think about the quality increase means productivity increase. So some of the time, some of the earlier owners, they're thinking the quality increase means productivity may be decreased due to the cost and other issues. Wrong concept. And this is some of the examples. I don't want to talk too much, but the main key point is that, we have to create the environment, the problem-solving environment in the organization. The whole organization, they should do the practice, the problem-solving environment instead of the firefighting environment. Even is there any kind of the failure or any kind of errors, the TQM concept or the continuous improvement, they should focus on what kind of problem, how we can resolve this problem, instead of who did this one, why you did this one. So that means our traditional approach should be changed to the TQM approach. We should go to thinking about the long-term focus instead of the short-term focus. We should think about the cross-functional teams instead of the individual thinking. So we have to ensure this one continuous improvement everywhere. And then you have to go to the innovation, but not too much innovation. Incremental improvement, so gradual improvement. What I said earlier, continuous improvement. Some of the parameters we have to think when you are thinking of the successful organization or business excellence. We have to ensure these few key points. Now, if you look very carefully, this is a TQM model. When you think about the TQM model, there are the three most important parameters. One is that management leadership, product and process for excellence, and human resource excellence. And whatever we do, our ultimate target, the customer focus. So customer is our middle point. And then we should think about the management leadership, excellence, product and process excellence, as well as human resource excellence. If you ask me that when you're talking about the management leadership, there's something, the leadership, they should have some vision. And definitely they should have the 100% commitment to 100% commitment to the employees. So this commitment will start from the top level management. So this is our kind of leadership quality. And definitely we need some strategic planning. And we have to think how we can motivate our employees. That's some of the motivational factors. So this is a part of the leadership. When you're talking about the excellence, product and process excellence, what we said earlier, that we have to reflect the few things like continuous improvement. We should think about the proactiveness rather than reactiveness, the preventive measurement. We should think about the documentation. Any kind of decision will come based on the data. So it will be the data-based approach instead of the opinion-based approach. So we have to need the documentation process. Definitely in that case, our technology advancement, big data will be another issue. So if we create the whole organization, big data concept, based on the documentation, data-based approach, we have to come to the decision. And now come to the human resource excellence. In human resource excellence, we should think about the human component, how can improve, team building, information flow from the top to bottom, information flow from supplier to customer, cross-functional style. So this is some of the parameters we have to think, how could we ensure the human resource excellence. Ultimately, our target is a business excellence. So we have to ensure human resource excellence must be the first step to become the business excellence. Now, we got some idea. So if you think the TQM companies, those are practicing the TQM concept. So we have to strive for the accident-free job site. We have to ensure that we are taking care of employees. We have to ensure that there is the accident-free job site. So we have to show this one that safety at first rather than our production. And we have to create the environment so that employees to become involved in helping the company. And training should be the regular basis, internally, external training program. And we have to improve our communication skills inside and outside of the company. And we have to place the strong emphasis on the right kind of leadership, where we have to do the recognition. We have to recognize the employees. This is the way that how we can ensure that the continuous improvement in the organization. And now, say we are assuming that our current entrepreneur, they are practicing the TQM leadership style. So first of all, they have to take some decision by the MBWA, manager by walking around. So they have to work in the organization. They have to discuss with the employees what are the strategic level, planning level, operating level. And sometimes they have to patronize the team's decision in harmony with the quality statement of the organization. And definitely, we have to read the total quality management literature, attend the different conferences, get some idea from the global people, international people. So this is the way that how they can improve the organization. And senior manager must participate in the award ceremony, recognition. And sometimes our top managers, they are not thinking of the recognition, but it's very important for the motivation. And but they have to create the communication in internal, external suppliers through busy, focus group interview. Definitely the top management, TQM leaders, they should be the live and communicate the total quality management concept. So it's a live and communicate, so that everybody can understand that this is a practice in the whole organization. Okay, so this is our first part. What I said earlier, that total quality management is one of the parameters for thinking about the business excellence. Now we are moving to the next one, supply chain. If you look very carefully here, say when you are the entrepreneur, you have to start to think that you have to need the knowledge of supply chain knowledge. So now you can ask me, what is the supply chain? Basically, supply chain means this is a chain, and that will start from the supplier and finish with the customer end. So this is a chain that will start from supplier and finish the customer end. And how we'll manage the chain, that is the supply chain management. And you understand already what I said here, supply to customer. So raw materials will come from supplier end, and after the processing, finished product delivered to the customer end. So you should think about the flow of goods, flow of information, and flow of fund from supply to customer. So when you become the entrepreneur, you have to think whether you have this kind of flow. If you have this kind of flow, that means it's working properly. So basically what I said, that this is a basic supply chain for the manufacturing industry. We can apply this supply chain management concept in the manufacturing industry as well as in the service industry. So you see there is a different entities like supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retail, and customer. We can also apply this on basic supply chain for the service industry. If you look very carefully, if you like to apply this one for the service industry, the same things. We have to ensure the flow of information from supplier to customer, and the flow of information, flow of the fund. But if you look very carefully, we mentioned here the consumer. Consumer, basically the end customer and user. When you talk about the service industry supply chain management, that we have to ensure that our main target contribute to the society. How we can add the value to society. So that's why we can see in service and supply chain management, the consumer. So this consumer is a society. So whatever we do in the service and supply chain management, our main target, how we can add the value to society, betterment of the society. This is some of the examples for the manufacturing industry as well as for the service industry. So we believe that we can think in that way that our entrepreneurs, they are working in the manufacturing and service industry. So they should think how they can apply this concept. And this is some of the parameters for supply chain management, like there are some facilities like warehouses, factories, production center, distribution center, retail outlets, and offices. These are some of the functional activities. So what I said here, when you think about the supply chain management, we have to ensure the sequence of organizations from supply to customer, their facilities and their function and activities that are involved in producing and delivering a product or service. So when you work on the whole supply chains, from supply to customer, we have to ensure this kind of facilities, function and activities. So we have started by the, what you said here, product quality management. Now we are in the supply chain management. When you go for the supply chain management concept, that time this is the one important issue is that what kind of strategy we are applying. So business entrepreneurship, they have to decide they would like to apply the responsive supply chain strategy or efficient supply chain strategy. Responsive supply chain strategy means their main strategy will be the quick response, high quality, high cost. On the other hand, the efficient supply chain strategy, their main target will be cost effectiveness, cost compromise, quality compromise, and definitely low response. And now, if you ask me that there's a two type of business strategy in the supply chain. So now, entrepreneur, they will think which one they would like to apply. In order to come to a decision, they have to check that the competitive markets. They have to check the customers. In terms of the customers, in terms of the competitors, they come up with the decision. Say responsive supply chain strategy. If you ask me that, say 7-star Hotel Hilton, San Jose, California. On the other hand, efficient supply chain strategy like budget hotel in India, Calcutta. So responsive supply chain strategy, say Robinson, Zara. Efficient supply chain strategy like Chatuchak market in Thailand, Moso Center in Singapore, China market. So you can understand the two things. Now, whatever we are applying, we are the entrepreneur, our target is business excellence. So you can apply the responsiveness or efficiency, but you have to target how you can go to the best approach. This is a 3 distinct level. I don't want to talk too much about this one. We are familiar with this one, the strategic planning and operation level. So when you like to apply this one, like the strategy, planning, operation level, so strategic level for the top management, planning level for the middle level managers, and operation level for the line level managers. And our customers are here. So whatever we do, there is some connectivity, like strategic level decision, they're taking the 5 years to 1 year decision, planning level for this year to next year decision, operation level for the regular operation, like daily, weekly, monthly. So what I said here, if you look very carefully, flow of information from the strategy, from the planning, for the operation, from the customers. And now when we are thinking of the business excellence, when you're thinking the successful entrepreneurship, we have to ensure that our customer, whether they're satisfied with our service or not. So sometimes maybe the top management, they should come directly to the operation level. They should discuss with them what is happening. And based on their opinion, we can do some regular survey. They can think how they can improve this one. Ultimate target, what I said earlier, customer satisfaction. And now come to our next one, what I said, the digital innovation, like technological advancement. So this is our time. And then when you talk about in this era, our entrepreneurship, so they should be equipped with the digital innovation. So they should think about how they can apply the modern technology advancement, like wearable devices, like the IoT, artificial intelligence, big data, and so on. And we are talking about the human supply chain management. Now we have to think how we can apply this technological advancement in our whole supply chain. So how can I apply the artificial intelligence, machine learning, industrial revolution 4.0, automation, robotics, cloud computing, IoT, so on. Now, our reshaping the future. So now is the time you should think, and you know that our COVID-19 gives us a different flavor in our whole society. So nowadays we are thinking that post-pandemic and before the pandemic time. So our from learning from the COVID time, we have got some of the messages. One message is that we should think about the decentralization instead of the centralization. Maybe we should think about the companies looking to bring the production of home. So home delivery service. It is possible if you do the automation, small batch production. So what I said here, the transition to a new model for supply chains will be underpinned by the rapid wholesale digitalization of the paperwork that accompanies the global trade. So now we have to go to the digitization process. The earlier it was the paperwork, now we have to move to that one. And then, you know that we have to think of the digitalization, our buyer-supplier relationship is a fundamental element for our building the robust supply chain. And what I said earlier, technology advancement, we should think about this one. So if we apply the technology advancement, then supply chain could quickly switch to alternative providers or regular suppliers face the disruption. So this is a time, let us create our smart, agile, industry-driven, resilient supply chain with maintaining the ecosystems. I can repeat, with maintaining the ecosystems. We cannot ignore the environment. This is a part of our development. With maintaining the ecosystem is the key to building a global trade and investment network that is capable of weathering the future storms. Even we are assuming that if we face the again pandemic, as such kind of the supply chain disaster, we have to resolve. So now we should think about how we can go to the next level. So before finishing, I like to go back to what you said, starting point, the business excellence. Do you recall that today when you start the lectures, we mentioned that our main target, the business excellence. And if you are target the business excellence, then we have to make sure the few things. Product quality management. We have to make sure this one in the whole organization, you have to do the practice. Supply chain management, from supply to customer. Technological advancement. This is our new paradigm shift. Globalization. We should not ignore the internationalization. Whether you are the USA, you are the Middle East, you are the UK, you are the India, you are the Bangladesh, whatever, the Malaysia, doesn't matter. Matter is that the concept is that global village. So business excellence, when you are thinking, you have to think about this one. Definitely environment. We already mentioned ecosystem. We have to go to the 3R, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. We should think of the sustainability. In that case, we should apply the ESG metrics. And any organization nowadays, we should think about this one, how we can apply the ESG metrics. Environmental, social, and governance. So these are very key points that how we can think, how we can adopt in the business excellence. And finally, the emotional intelligence. Business ethics. We are working on the business ethics, but at the same time, we have to remember one thing, that emotion, the public sentiment, you can ignore. Before finishing, I like to finish this way. You see, our last year's election, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, we are thinking that it will be the 50-50 position, like the very highly competitive. But we did not notice this kind of competition in the election. So there is some things. Because our last year's government, they are doing a lot of the war against the Muslim people all over the world. They are talking about against the humanity. So their voice is different. So what I said, the emotional intelligence, we have to understand very clearly. It is not only country, not only organization, it's everywhere. So nowadays we have to do the practice. When you're talking about the business excellence, we should think about this one, how we could ensure this emotional intelligence. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much. Now I like to open the floor for you. If you have any question, feel free to ask the question. If you have any question, please feel free to ask the question.
If nobody has any questions, okay. Doesn't sound like anybody has any questions. I just had two comments. One of your earlier slides, you listed the characteristics of an entrepreneur, what an entrepreneur needs. My students often ask me, which are the most important of those characteristics? And I tell them that they're all important, but I think the one that stands out is an entrepreneur has to be comfortable with taking risk. Because getting into a new business and then you put together a big business plan, you start the business, doesn't turn out what the business plan said. So now you have to make adjustments and go into areas where you hadn't thought about, and that requires risk on the part of the entrepreneur, and he has to be able to live with that risk. Now, some people can live with risk, and some people have a problem with it. If you have a problem with living with risk, I tell people you may not be the best candidate for an entrepreneur, because there's just a tremendous amount of risk you have to take, and a lot of things you do unknown under conditions of uncertainty. So living with risk is very important. The second comment I had, when you're talking about your whole thing about that total quality management and how we're improving this and how all the stakeholders, it was interesting that you didn't mention profit in there, and you didn't talk about the stockholders or other owners of the company and what's on them too. So I'm just a little curious about that.
Thank you so much. I'd like to start with the first one. You know that when you talk about the entrepreneur characteristics, we are talking the risk taking, definitely, but the risk taking will come from the innovation. If you have the visionary leadership, that time is the most important thing is that you have to take the risk.
Yeah.
So that with leadership qualities, this is the few things very correlated, like visionary, risk taking, and innovation, creativity. So it is what do you call it, that like the interconnectivity. So we cannot ignore one by one. So you have to go to the all together.
Yes.
And come to the second one, when you are talking about the total quality management, there is the one thing what I said earlier. Our traditional thinking is that if you think about too much about the total quality management, maybe our productivity will be decreased. Maybe we cannot go to the for profit. But our TQR concept say no. If you think about the total quality management concept, automatically your productivity will be increased, and definitely eventually you will get the profit. So what I said that this is a new concept, but still is I would say that it's a conceptualized level, and we are practicing this one. It will take time, but we have to highlight this one. If you apply the total quality management top to bottom, supply to customer, definitely it will impact upon your production, upon your service. By this, automatically you get the profit. So profit will be the byproduct.
All that. Fine. Thank you. Thank you. Very well done, Dr. Habib. I appreciate it. Excellent.
Any other question from the audiences?
Okay. Seeing none, we have two more. I'm just going to go down in order here. Ed Morrison, and then Faoud will be last.